Well, MTF, what happened was I just kind of got in here and I was like, all right, so I want to have some kind of master sets on timetable patterns, right? And I was like, all right, well, I also wanted to do it for like my main financial with 11 sectors and having subsectors and what are they, dashboards, your portfolio models, and anything else that you got that goes great with when you have a catalyst for it. But I want to still try to get to the webway pattern where I can make a graph out of it on a timeline. Super critical, very important. I mean, I'm not saying that force isn't an important bar graph to note at time. There, it's the Pmax inversion on a date, and that's kind of why the nature of any product or names, how you want to set up that your main source page, so I can just like hack data like this in terms of a platform that's generally already started with a name category or all the functions that I want, or hooked up into a query function in some way where the algorithm's real fast for me. I can just jump around to a sheet, click it, and run it down in here. So I just want to focus on the time aspect of it right now and start to bring in the prime nature of what it does. In general relativity, you use Earth as the general model, kind of like I do with sunshine. We want to be able to understand the sun, or at least the Pmax that's involved with that at noon, right? So that helps you with the black body problem. It helps you with PAR and the spectrum to say, well, that's really gamma calc. That is, even in whatever form it may turn to X bar X in set theory, then you get to say, well, what you're looking at is me taking very specific datas that come in at the main source here, the minute or the day, seconds or the day, picoseconds or whatever, where you're going to get this lineup on interference or some kind of triple helical main function off what the cache symbol is. We're locking it in a statement relative to the other models. And in this case, it splatters it out on a flat D space instead of putting it up here in the point or line-like angles or wave function that represents. And it's because of something like this. Realistically, I just need the 2, but 3 is a visual out here that really helps the brain do things. Plus, it'll open it up into the other sub features. We're really not outside of what it is, but because there is the platform A1 and it kind of locks it in, even if you were to hand draw this just makes it a trillion times faster, and it also gives you the ability to save it, because otherwise you would have to hand draw this out every single time. There's no machine function that's going to just do that for you in terms of what it does, and then I can print that out. Now again, I don't ever have it on my visual for handwriting the books, right? It takes the same kind of time. You're going to be dealing with the same kind of procrastination. You're going to be dealing with a guy like me that doesn't really know how to do this. And I'm not saying that the other computer programmers don't, but running at a speed that you can't click and keep up with, right? Because, well, you're just in the early phases of that model. You are getting it, and in that first day, you're starting to pick up patterns. And that's going to cause its own interference on another subset of tasks that I give you. But because you are tighter with me and tighter with those systems, I'm going to allow you, I hate to use even just the notation of it, right? I'm going to watch your numbers. I'm going to understand that that's going to cause an interference pattern for the next task that I do, because we already picked up on this. And so eventually that's going to taper out. That's going to smooth out a little bit in the system, or it's going to stand out in outliers within your system that is true and false to things that I have on another model that are also true and false that are within the 1, because I can copy and click and run that, right? So 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5, or even, 1 day, because it'll go 1 day, 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. And if you do the date, it'll just keep that date. If you change the date over, it'll run that date out consistently. And so you'll get those two models. And that's essentially why these two things are the same color. In the first part of a week, what we know, prime, because this is celestial bound, sunshine stuff. Earth is the field theory where we're trying to apply this information. And sunshine is the Pmax that we use to say, well, then this is equivalent, 0, to what we can achieve by staring at the sun long enough and doing it. It's you feel the three mean in there? Okay, I just wanted to have that touch on here. But again, when we look at what a pattern is, in a not natural week, there's going to be how it starts on what will be later on a Monday issue of this triple body problem. Because out of a number series like this, other than it knows the months, it's not going to be able to say, well, then there's a pattern about all the count in some form here, just whatever number set you have of them, and you summed it out and you counted them, and some kind out here, which is, in a way, you want to say, well, I want to limit the number. Well, it's ultra relativistic, isn't it? If there was a larger subset out of one, well, then that shares a P max that's stronger than some other subset, which might be what I'm looking for in that situation. Again, if you use my stone mill books, running the Cutcos, I'm programming in the saws every night. It's a very slow but fast and hard, moving an electron with its pattern recognition, so you actually get the function to work true, 1. And so, like, you're physically, I have a video where I'm talking about the G-lock or G-suit of flipping treads. In that way, I didn't necessarily write them down. I did have a pattern calculator, but I didn't necessarily write them down at that time. But you feel a system. It wasn't until like over 4 or 5 times of those where I had a big hang up somewheres or something that I realized that that's where that pattern was. I wasn't able to bracket it or put it in an array until I got to the zeta function of what that was, the end of it, and then every single time at the end of it I could see that result, and I feel more comfortable, much like making a visual video on a system like that. Here at the top end, it's ray tracing with grays, right? They got to be able to stay in the office and make this stuff useful from a computer science degree, or when you get the job that says you had to know sheets. We're not just talking about how these algorithms work, we're talking about the brickwork that goes with that as well, because it's three mean.